Yep, there it goes.
There we go. So my thought is they need to hire Catherine from our book.
True. Yeah, she's doing really well to try and turn that company around.
Just organize a team. You can see the problem in communication and conflict. It's just back and forth. So let's just start with kind of the synopsis. I was just looking up the questions. So what do you think needs to happen here? Do you want to give us a synopsis of it, Kent, and what's going on, and then maybe tell us what you were thinking?
Well, it definitely, man, this one seemed to go downhill really fast. It started out so good with lots of high hopes from everybody, but I feel like I'm just thinking of this now. I didn't actually include this in my write-up, but I'm thinking the boss Cardullo, he didn't do a very good job in continuing to explain his expectations, and so Turner just thought he had all this room to do what he wanted, because that's what he was hired to do, to try and work on something to turn the company around. And then Cardullo seemed to go back on that a little bit, that maybe he thought he gave him too much free area, or but I feel like he was trying to do both. He was trying to be corporate and run this company at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Turner's boss has too much going on. He's trying to manage too many things, and he's not even doing what his boss wants him to do, spend time in a certain area. But I mentioned that in my paper, that there's no vision there. Turner's asking for a couple times, what's my directives? And, well, just go do whatever. You know what I mean? It's not very clearly defined. There's really not any goals. 1 minute he has control over pricing, the next minute it's pulled away from him.
Yeah.
It just seems like there was no consistency. Like, he would be able to do one thing one time and wouldn't get any feedback on it, and then the next time he did it, Cardullo would like crack down on him and say, "What are you doing?" And so it's just kind of like there was no consistency. So every time Turner had to make a decision, he was questioning if he was even able to make the decision, and what would be the feedback from that. So and then Cardullo, yeah, he had his job. Like his boss wanted him to stay, at MLI, and he kept going back and forth between San Diego. So he wasn't really doing what he was supposed to be doing.
My favorite question was, well, when did I tell you had to worry about volume in there? When he pulled pricing back from him, I'm like, really?
That is his job.
But you can see the effects, even, when he pulled that pricing back and then put everything at that 20, 24%, whatever. It's, man, just not understanding the market's going to hurt him like it did.
True. But I think that's a lot of his engineering background, that he's a smart guy, but he just doesn't seem to understand that side of the business as well.
Yep. What are you going to say, Connor?
Well, I just think like Cardullo doesn't have enough time invested into any particular aspect of the company to really be able to give any direction towards it. Like he's just kind of like dipping his toe in all the different aspects, and then thinking that his decision is the best when it's not. He should rely more on the people that are involved with that system every single day, rather than him just like popping his head in and saying, "Hey, you're doing this wrong," and then disappearing again.
Exactly. There's no team there. It's him and his way, and those other guys are really just puppets of, what do you want me to do, and I'll do it, type of thing. And that is unfortunate, especially when Chin won't even bring up in a meeting. She just agrees. She's turned into a yes lady for him. She's not free to even voice her own opinions.
Right, and even when he wanted to rearrange that warehouse, where like they put it in a system where the computers all knew where it was and it was all computerized, and he's like, nope, I want to be able to see everything with my own eyes, so reorganize everything. Like, we live in a day and age now where that is totally not necessary. Like, computer systems are going to be 100% more effective than just like what you see. And he didn't listen to Turner, and he didn't listen to, I can't remember the name, but of the person in charge of the warehouse. He didn't listen to either one of them and said, do what I want to do.
Yeah, his way or the highway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. And that's very dysfunctional. They do have a dysfunctional team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you think Turner should do then? What would you guys write that he should do? You know, obviously he's waiting there, and all of a sudden he hears his boss walk up behind him. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd been there where his boss was. I don't know what to do.
Right. Because I don't feel like he's in a position. Oh, whoops. Go ahead, Connor.
Well, I think he tried to address it a couple times, I think. And it just never really got accepted. Or Cardullo would just kind of like brush it off and be like, whatever, everything's fine. Like, even after they had kind of a disagreement, Turner went in to try to talk to him about it, and Cardullo just brushed him off like, no, everything's good.
Right.
And Turner's like, really? We just had a big disagreement. Like, shouldn't we talk about this? And so, I mean, I think talking about it hasn't necessarily worked up to this point, but I think Turner should also be a little bit more forceful and bring up certain situations where he's like, okay, well, let's get clarity on this then. Instead of just letting Cardullo run the conversation, be like, hey, I want clarity on this. And demand certain answers from certain things. Like, start to be way more specific with him rather than just leaving it up to him.
Agreed. How about you, Kent? Anything to add?
I thought the first thing that needs to change is that pricing model. I think they need to go back to where they were, and I hope that in his preparation to talk with Cardullo that day, he's like figured out like a side-by-side comparison of before that change and then after, so that Cardullo can really see what he changed, how it affected even individual products that they sell. And I think that visual will really cement that in his mind that maybe I didn't do the right decision at that point. And then that might trigger a chain reaction to where he rethinks how he does things.
Yeah, and I think it starts with what Connor was saying with the clarity. All right, what are we trying to accomplish? What are my goals? What's my position here? And then if it's to move volume, is it to get a certain margin? And then I think you can have that discussion. Say, well, you know, these high moving ones we can't make as much, but these other ones we can make more on them. And I think that when you get clarity and define what the role is, then you can bring that up and say, you know, this isn't working. But I don't know that Cardullo likes conflict either. He's not willing. I don't know if he doesn't like it, or he just kind of, like you were saying earlier, Connor, no, things are fine type of attitude. It's going to be interesting. I think he needs clarity though. First of all, what is my role? Because he hasn't received that yet after several months with the company.
Yeah, I think he got hired on because the ability to kind of do his own thing and have more freedom was attracted to him, because his other job was like he felt like he was kind of restricted as to what he could do. And this new one offered him kind of the ability to run his own show. But now it's almost to the point where he has too much. Right. So where he can really do anything. Like, he's like, why, what am I even doing? I'm just doing random stuff and I'm really going nowhere. So it's kind of like, you have to find that sweet spot where there is enough rules and enough guidelines to really point you in the direction that you should go, but also the freedom to let you kind of run it yourself.
Yeah,
and just don't have that established yet. Right,
and if they would have had a team, they could have discussed when he was selling stuff at a very low cost, instead of blowing up at Chin. Like, man, that's a venomous relationship at this point. That's got to be fixed too. But instead of discussions, he just was given free reign, and man, it's turned in a lot of hurt feelings, on the staff now, them blowing up at each other.
Yeah. Yeah, they all have a little bit of the blame in this. It's going to take a lot for them to all turn this around.
Yes. And they can't be afraid of conflict, but it can't be personal. It has to get the egos out of the way, like the book said, and move forward with what's best for the team and for the company. Yeah. That's where it has to lie, I think. Definitely. But it's going to take a different leader than Cardullo, I think, to do that, because up to this point, I guess he could change, but up to this point, it hasn't been that way.
And that's actually what I said in my write-up is like, if Cardullo can't kind of figure it out, then he needs to be let go, and someone else needs to be brought in that can really dedicate the time that it's going to take to understand. I mean, maybe even if Cardullo just goes to San Diego full-time and someone else can come into MLI full-time, just some condition where someone else can be there full-time to kind of establish a direct and an objective that they're all trying to get to, rather than just everyone just shows up, does a bunch of stuff, goes home, but really accomplishes nothing.
Agreed. Yep. Okay. Any other thoughts? Go ahead, Kent.
I was also thinking that if Cardullo does stay, that Turner could try and appeal to his pride to get him to buckle down. I was thinking maybe he could tell him that if he focused completely on MLI and stayed there full time, then that would show the COO guy that seems to kind of be the big boss for them that he's actually serious about that, and he's not just taking his job lightly. Yeah, I was thinking that. So
kind of portray it as like you could make more money, you could be promoted type things, like try to get him to be
and that would look good for the boss if you would focus on it full time.
Right. Okay. Well, I think is anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I think so too. So I guess let me stop the broadcast.